Good afternoon, sixth grade champions. Dr. Dunaway here, and today we begin our reading together. We are going to read aloud together over the next few days and possibly weeks as we are away from school. And before we begin reading today, I want to talk with you about the first two habits of the 7 habits: being proactive and beginning with the end in mind. While we're away from school, it's incredibly important for you to be proactive, for you to yourself choose to work really hard, to check in with Ms. Tipton and Ms. Owens, to do your very best. You must be proactive. And the second is begin with the end in mind. At some point, we will end our school year together, maybe at school, or maybe through distance learning as we are now. But there will be an end of the school year, and we want everyone to meet their academic and personal goals. So as we are sitting here together today on Monday, March 23rd, I want you to think about the end result. I want you to be proactive in completing your assignments and checking in with Ms. Tipton, Ms. Owens, and letting us know if you need something. And then I want you to work and give your best effort with the end in mind. I decided, being proactive, that I would take time every day to read with every learning community in our school. No one asked me to do this. No one said, Dr. Dunaway, you need to read to the students every day. I decided to be proactive because reading is important to me, and I know it's fundamental to your academic success. So today we begin our first book that's in your Invest for Success bag, granted. You can read along with me, follow along, read it later and just listen, but we're reading this book and completing it together. So now let's get started. Granted by John David Anderson. This is the foreword. The last time you blew out your birthday candles, what did you wish for? Did you blow them all out on the first breath? It doesn't count otherwise. Also, do not let your brother or sister help you. At best, they will waste your wish. At worst, they will steal it for themselves. Same for dandelions. The one breath rule, or else the wish won't fly. It's harder than you think getting all those seeds off in one huff. Harder than candles on a cake. If you can't manage it though, don't worry. There are a dozen more ways to make a wish. A quarter flipped into a fountain. A penny dropped down a well. Some might tell you that bigger coins make stronger wishes, but that's simply not true. A silver dollar or even a gold doubloon doesn't increase the chances you'll get what you want. Your dollar is better spent on gumballs or ice cream. Use a nickel instead. Wishes aren't for sale to the highest bidder. A shooting star, or maybe just an airplane passing overhead, it's hard to tell. What was that wish for? You needn't wait for one to streak by. The truth is, any star will do, so long as it's the first one you spot. Just don't sing the song, you know the one. It grates on the nerves after a while. Maybe you keep a wishing stone in your jacket pocket, rubbed smooth by time and worry. the circle of your thumb going round and round as you shut your eyes and hope. Don't. You're better off skipping that stone across the lake. Wishes are temporary things. You can't just keep them in your coat and ask for them whenever you please. That would be unfair, and the wish-granting process is nothing if not fair. Wishes are made in moments of wonder and desperation. Wishes are prayers without a salutation and minus an amen. Did you know that you can wish on a horse? But it has to be all white or all black, no patches or spots. A pony will do in a pinch. And contrary to popular opinion, you do not have to see its tail. Or wait until Thanksgiving and dig through the picked clean carcass of that cooked bird to find the bone, shaped nothing like a wish, for wishes have no shape except the one you give them. Looking more like a pair of tweezers or a U that's trying very hard to become an I, the bigger half is the one that counts, of course, and no fair breaking all by yourself. Wishing is competitive. There's only so much magic to go around, and less as time goes by, it seems. Feathers, yawns, and falling leaves, acorns and necklace clasp, four-leaf clovers. Yes, they can be wished on, but no, they aren't good luck. Neither are rabbit's feet, at least not for the rabbit. Eyelashes, yes, but only if they fall out on their own and you happen to catch them on your fingertip. Plucked lashes are instantly disqualified. The first rainbow of spring spotted through the window of your moving car, you point it out and your mother tells you to make a wish on it. Go ahead, but keep it to yourself. Telling ruins it, and it makes mom feel bad if she knows it will never come true. Though she can't possibly know, not for certain, even though the odds are against you. Some wishes do get granted, just not near as many as before. Perhaps you are partly to blame for that. Or maybe it's some fault in the system. Or maybe that's just how it has to be. The last time you blew out your candles, what did you wish for? And did you get it? Chapter 1. The lottery was in less than an hour, and Ophelia still hadn't waxed her wings. Her hair, as cobalt blue as the flower she was born from, and just as delicate and fine, was brushed, of course, her bangs pinned back. Her uniform pressed, buttons polished, collar cinched so tight it was hard to swallow. Her boots showed little sign of wear, all the scuffs carefully buffed away. But her wings, she simply hadn't gotten to yet. Probably not an issue. There were no long-distance flights in her future after all. But if anything could be said of Ophelia Delphinium Fidgets, it would be that she was always prepared, that she worried over every minor detail. Some fairies called her fussy. She preferred the word meticulous. When she was born, pulled from the dense cluster of dewdrop flowers in Miss Haverstack's back garden, she looked at her founder and immediately brushed the pollen grains off his shoulder. They bothered her, sitting there, impertinent and messy. Tidy, that's how she liked things. At the age of nearly nothing, she was all about the particulars. Nothing out of place for this fairy, never. That's how she'd risen in the ranks so quickly. The youngest ever to graduate from the academy. Top marks. A certified field agent at the age of 4. A grantor. Which is why it was a little bothersome to her that she wasn't ready for work yet. Normally she would be sitting by her chair now, in her chair by now, on her third bowl of honey-eyed oats, staring at the clock, waiting for Charlie to pick her up so they could commute to work. Not that she needed the company. He was the one who insisted. Ophelia's cottage in the treetops was on his way. Ophelia didn't mind being alone, at least most days. Grantors almost always flew solo. Sometimes it's best if you have to count only on yourself, even if it means you will have only yourself to blame. She reached into her cabinet and pulled out her jar of liquid beeswax and the bit of cotton that she used to spread it, cautious not to get the stuff on her fingers. It was nearly impossible to wash off completely and made your skin stickier than snot. Ooh. For the rest of the morning, she would fumble at door handles and have things slip out of her hands if she wasn't careful. On wings, though, it did wonders, especially if you were traveling in bad weather. Not that she would know. It had been nearly a year since she graduated, and in that time she'd made only brief forays outside the haven. Training exercises mostly, some cleanup detail, but no actual missions. Not the things she had trained for. Ophelia Delphinium Fidgets was a granter, yes, but she still hadn't made her first wish come true. Let's go on to chapter 2. She was Delphinium first, Fidget second, Ophelia third. When fairies are born, North American fairies at least, they are given their names in stages, not all at once. The middle is always the first. Fairy ritual is seldom logical and is simply the name of the flower, bush, or tree they are born from. For fairies, as everyone knows, are creatures of nature in the most intimate sense, sprung from magic and beauty and wisdom, and even more specifically sprouted from lilacs, pine trees, and mulberry bushes, though there were several fairies, Ophelia thought, who must have sprung from tree stumps or boulders for all the sense they had. A leaf unfurls, a flower's petals part, and there uncurling alongside and stretching his or her sun-blessed limbs is a fairy in the flesh. Perhaps you've seen it happen, though you wouldn't know it. Fairies are nothing if not stealthy and quick-witted, and a touch mischievous. The flower or tree a fairy springs from undoubtedly says something about her, contributes to her personality. Fairies emerge from redwood trees a little stouter than those stemming from phlox. Pansy pit fairies have a more delicate disposition than those born from bamboo. Certain plants are more likely to harbor fairies in them as well. There are probably more fairies with the middle name of Rose than any other. Ophelia could count 6 in her department alone. Several with the middle name of Lily. Lots of tulips and violets and daffodils, quite a few oaks and maples and birches. Delphinium was a rare middle name for a fairy, which suited Ophelia just fine. A fairy's last name is given by his or her founder, the fairy who came to the outside world and brought the newborn sprite back to the haven before she could be eaten by a goshawk or snatched by a fox, or worst of all, spotted by a prying human. The founders are responsible for overseeing the care of new fairies at least until they were able to care for themselves, which isn't that long, as fairies are naturally precocious and grow up quickly. As such, founders are the first to see a new fairy's personality surface, to pick up on her quirks and tricks, her penchants and predilections. Often that's where a last name comes from. Ophelia's founder immediately noticed her messing with his buttons and baubles, tugging on the loose threads of his uniform, wriggling and writhing in his arms. She couldn't be still, even as a newborn, so it didn't take him long to figure what her last name should be. Fidgety little worm, this one, he said when he returned to the haven, bringing her home. And so she was Delphinium Fidgets. As for her first name, that was simply a matter of luck. A fairy's first name was drawn out of a hat, though not a literal hat. That's just to say that it was chosen completely at random. More and more things are like that in the haven, much to some fairies' dismay. Ophelia felt fortunate to have her name. She liked the way the F sounds crashed together, like a hard rain. She liked the mouthfulness of it, a name so long you almost had to take a breath in between. Better than Mary Rose Cryer, the fairy who ran the switchboards and was prone to sobbing jags, and much better than Argus, Father Giller, Gaspasser. His founder must have been sensitive to smells to have given Argus such an unfortunate moniker, though Ophelia could affirm from experience that his last name was well earned. Gus Gaspasser could clear a room faster than you could wish for a breath of fresh air. Then there was Billy Lily Shrill, who you could hear from a mile away. Sometimes a name could tell you most everything you needed to know about a fairy. Sometimes it just gave you a hint, like Charlie. Charlie Rhododendron Whistler. It was also a bit of a mouthful, Ophelia admitted, though it didn't have quite the same ring as her own. He was a bit of a handful. That's sort of why she liked him. When we read again, tomorrow we'll be on Chapter 3, page 11. So if you didn't have a chance to read today, please make sure, pick up Granted out of your Invest for Success bag and catch up with us. Tomorrow we begin with Chapter 3. Thank you so much and have a great